just made the one. Hopping and whipping, I'm all in my zone. Know that it came from a touch of a phone. No, we just different, you can't make a clone. I choose my boss, I know that you know. Got a whole lot of race. Choose your race. Choose your race. Choose your race. Got a whole lot of race. Choose your race. Got a whole lot of race. Choose your race. Yeah. I wanna buy my dreams to lose, yeah. I'm the only one I don't lose, yeah. Go to the middle and I cruise, yeah. We finish it what I do, yeah. I'm living this life, yeah. I'ma live it up for life, yeah. I'ma choose what I like, yeah. Made up my mind, let's go. Got a whole lot of race. Choose your race. Got a whole lot of race. Choose your race. Got a whole lot of race. Choose your race. Got a whole lot of race. Choose your race. Smell it, yeah. Yeah, put it in overdrive, yes. Making money with my eyes closed, so when I light away. Got me feeling like a diamond in my new girl. It's coming in without me driving, driving. I had to put in overtime, now I'm in overdrive. Had to put in overtime, now I'm in overdrive. I had to put in overtime, now I'm in overdrive. Had to put in overtime, now I'm in overdrive, overdrive. Top down and I'm speeding, yeah. No, I'm on my way, I never beat it, yeah. Better get yourself up front, route C. Started with one car, now I got a fleet. You know I'm on green like listen, I'll be late for the show. No way, but my money's so low. But I gotta stay in control. Gotta stay in control. Yeah, I'm cruising, driving slow. I'm in overdrive, it's my time to blow, blow, blow. And you know that's time for the show. Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know this is my year, my year. Shining like a chandelier, yeah, shine. Everything I do it with no fear. Yeah, put it in overdrive, yeah. Making money with my eyes closed, so when I light away, got me feeling like a diamond in my new girl. It's coming in without me driving, driving. I had to put in overtime, now I'm in overdrive. Had to put in overtime, now I'm in overdrive. I had to put in overtime, now I'm in overdrive. fast or slow. I'll let you choose the ride. Tell me yes or no. Enjoy the ride. Let's have the time of our life. Everything's going right. So sit back and ride. Let's party, yeah, 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 yeah. Let's party, yeah, 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 yeah. Let's party, yeah, 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 yeah. Let's party, yeah, 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 yeah. Fill your pipe on the road. We can go anywhere that you wanna go. You feel safe when you're in the vibe. It's the best feeling that you ever felt. No lie. Now that you're telling me that, it caught me by surprise. You can ride in my Maybach and cruise all night. Yeah. I know that you're feeling it, but just different. I can see you getting into it. I promise I ain't missing it. Oh yeah, I'll be honest. We can take it fast or slow. I'll let you choose the way I tell me yes or no. Enjoy the ride. Let's have the time of our life. Everything's going right. So sit back and ride. Let's fly, yeah, 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 yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. Just vibe with me. Hop inside, going full speed. What's up, what's up? I'm in my vibe ride. My vibe ride, my vibe ride, my vibe ride, my vibe ride. Just gotta sit back and buckle up. Let's go to the beach and get some lunch. Yeah, cruising downtown, let's have fun now. We gon' ride together till the sun down. It's always a vibe with me when you ride with me. You like when I do my drifting. We gon' take over the whole city. Yeah, yeah. Ride with me. Up inside, going full speed. What's up, what's up? I'm in my vibe ride. My vibe ride, my vibe ride, my vibe ride, my vibe ride. We vibe out now and just cruise. Say nothing to lose. You know it's perfect timing, no worries. So let's hop in that vibe and let's I'm in my vibe right. My vibe right. My vibe right. My vibe right. My vibe right.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Vibe Rides driver training series that we've been conducting. This is the fourth of 8 trainings that we're going to go through. We started last Friday, March 20th, and we've had meetings so far, Monday, Tuesday this week. Just so everybody knows, every meeting that we've had so far, our Zoom calls and Facebook Live, are both available for review. So if you're just getting on the call for the first time today, if you have some other people that want to know what's happened in the training sessions, please go back and take a look at them. They should be out there on both Zoom and also on Facebook, and we'll be getting that information to you. My name is Scott Bachman, for those who are on the call for the first time, and I'm the Executive Vice President for Vibe Rides. Always fun to be on the call here with you folks, and look forward to providing you some more training today. So again, just to give a recap, if we've got somebody new who's on the call, every day we go through a topic pertaining to Vibe Rides. We've been very focused on the driver side here only, getting the drivers everything that they need to know to get out on the road. So every day we do that. And then also at the end, we have time for some chats, some questions and answers. And what we attempt to do is answers the questions, then the chats that you may have from the calls from today or earlier in the week. But I'd encourage you all to stay on this call all the way from the beginning to the end today. I've got a special guest that I'm going to be bringing on the call at the very end of the training. And you will want to stay around and hear this person, Mr. Holton Buggs, who is the CEO from Vibe Rides. And he's going to be on the call. He's going to be giving a little bit of his overview, a little bit of his thoughts as it pertains to the rideshare industry and Vibe Rides. And he's also offered to take a few questions live. So we're going to do a few live chat questions. Angela is going to look at some of the chat questions that have come up today. And when we get to the end of the call, Holton, Mr. Buggs, is going to basically answer a few of those questions. So again, everybody who's on the call the first time, we're doing this in a logical fashion. We're trying to work through from the beginning to the end all the questions that you'll have as a driver. That's why we've got an 8-part series, and I know we've had questions from people there. Everybody's excited. We're excited. People are trying to jump ahead a little bit, but if you just stick with us on the calls, follow through in a logical fashion, all your questions are going to get answered by the time we wrap up next Tuesday. So just to give you a little idea, tomorrow we're going to be talking about driver safety. On Friday, we're going to be talking about rider safety. On Monday next week, very, very important call that everybody needs to be on. Angela's going to be walking you through what the app looks like when you're actually on the road after you've been pinged, from the time you've been pinged till the end of the ride. That'll be on Monday. On Tuesday, we're going to do a second series, follow up on the overdrive call from today. And on Wednesday, April 1st, we are going to be going live and actually taking some rides and drives for Vibe Rides. So with that, Mark, you want to head us through the slides, please? Okay, Vibe Rides driver training series. Next slide, please, Mark. And we're going to talk about today is what we like to call the R3 program and the overdrive program. As I said before, this is some interesting concepts. I know people are going to want to hear all about this, so hang on. Next slide, please, Mark. Again, we've got our Spanish Zoom line, 443-186-957. If you want to be on the Spanish line, or I tried this yesterday, I'll try it again today. 443-186-957. Hopefully I did that right for the Spanish people. Okay, next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so what I thought I'd do first of all is I want to do a little bit of a recap. We covered a lot of information over the last 3 days. And so what I wanted to do is go through and recap a couple of the key slides that are pertaining to you as drivers. And what we're really focused on today, and along with the overdrive concept, is what we've been calling the opportunity-driven concept. So again, I want to go back and review a few of our concepts that we discussed quickly. So Mark, next slide, please. You know, we talked about this earlier in the week, and we talked about how your pay is calculated. And I'm not going to go through in great detail as I did before going over all of these concepts, What I just want to take away from you is that when we're talking about, and we'll probably interchange and use the word fare, you'll see it in a couple slides, F-A-R-E, fare, that really pertains to the mileage and time component of how your pay is calculated. As we talked about the other day, the technology platform fee, that is a fee that goes to support our technology development as it continues for the app. Sales tax, airport fees, venue fees are what they are. We have to collect those and we have to remit those to the appropriate authorities. The tolls you are reimbursed for, but when we calculate the percentage that you get, it comes off the mileage and time. Okay, next slide, please, Mark. So we talk about this. We've talked about, and I just want to clarify again, is again, going back to the map, going back to the mileage and time piece, just so again to clarify, the mileage and time piece, when you start off with your first ride, you're going to be being paid 70%. By the time you reach your 50 rides for the month, you're going to be paying 75%. So again, people ask like, well, what happens if I come up to the first, if I only have 40 rides, you'll be paid at a 70% rate. When you get up to the 50 rides, excuse me, you're going to be paid at 75%. So again, I just want to recap that for everybody so everybody understands what was going on. Next slide, please, Mark. There is another concept that we went over yesterday, and this is a promotion that we're doing. We call it Vibe 5. And again, we're doing this just to be clarified. This is on your first 5 rides. This is not every 5 rides. This is your first 5 rides as a Vibe Rides driver. So the way we've set this up is when you do your first 5 drives after you get on the road and you maintain a minimum rating of 4.2 over those first 5 rides, we're going to compensate you with a $50 reward for doing that. And the reason we're doing that is to help offset some of the costs as relates to the background checks and the vehicle inspections. But again, that's what we call the Vibe 5 driver promotion. First 5 rides you get when you're a driver. Okay, next slide, please, Mark. Okay, overdrive. Here we go, talking about overdrive. So up to this point, we've been focused on you as a driver, just simply a driver. But if you remember all along this, over the last 3-4 sessions we've had, I've always said that Vibe Rides is different, that we're just different. We've explained some of the ways we're different as just you've seen how we do vibes, how we catch your vibe, how you contain your vibe. But now we're going to talk about the opportunity-driven concept. And we're just going to do a little differentiation here. For some of you drivers, you're going to say, I just want to be a driver. I'm just happy to be a driver. For a lot of you, I think when you see the overdriven concept, we call it the opportunity-driven concept, you're going to see why we believe this is one of the most exciting programs that's going to be launched in the rideshare industry. Now, we're doing this in conjunction with a branding partner. As every company out there has a marketing company that we work with, Vibe Rides has a marketing partner, a branding partner that we work with called iBoomerang. And iBoomerang is the company that's been putting together this marketing program for us. Okay, can I have the next slide, Mark? Okay, so we call part of our concept here, we call R3. We look at Vibe as the next generation rideshare, and we have 3 ways to earn income. So if you're looking at that, you're going to be able to say, how in the heck do you have 3 ways to earn income? So if you're looking at this slide here, you're going to see over on the left, you're going to see where it says earn when you drive. And that's basically the way that rideshare has been up till now. You earn when you drive, and that's what we classify as a self-employment concept. But when we're talking about the opportunity-driven concept, we're talking about the potential to earn when others drive and earn when customers ride. So I want you to think about that. So 2 other ways to earn income versus the ways traditionally been done in rideshare. Next slide, please, Mark. So we really have, it's a matter of having passive income. We earn when they drive, like I said, and you can actually earn when they ride. Next slide, Mark. So again, I mentioned this number before, early in the week, 12%. So now we go back to that concept of fare. And fare, as you remember before, I said was mileage and time. So while you may be getting 75% as a driver, up to 75%, well, if you made your 50 rides, you could be at only 70% if you're under 50 rides. But of each ride, each fare, each ride, we take 12% of that mileage and time piece, and we put it into the concept called overdrive. So again, I did some of this math for you the other day. If you take a look at it and say, okay, 75% of that mileage and time is going to me, and there's another 12% going to this overdrive concept, that's 87% of the mileage and the time being paid out in compensation, which I think you'll admit that in the rideshare industry today, that's a number and a concept that's unheard of. That's why we're excited about this. That's why we're just different. So I'm going to explain this a little bit further. I know it's going to be a little bit complicated, so I'm going to try to slow down here a little bit for everybody so you stick with me. Next slide, Mark. Okay, there's a lot going on in this slide, but let me explain it. I just want you to take a look at the slide, and you can kind of see the line right down the middle. So in every ride that happens, every drive that happens, there's really two components. We've got the driver on one side and the rider on the other side. So I'm going to stay focused right now on the driver's side. So when we look at the driver here, I'm going to give the driver a name. When I first saw this slide, I thought it was Fred Brim, our customer service manager, our director. So Fred, I apologize, but at first I thought that was you. So in my example today, I'm going to call the driver Fred. Fred's the driver. And Fred is, like I said, Fred can just be a driver like everybody else. In this example, we have $100. And this is going for the fare breakdown. So this is the mileage and the time. Wouldn't we all love to have $100 in a fare? But this just makes the math easy. So just stick with me on this. So Fred, as the driver, the mileage and time piece was $100. Fred's getting 75% of that. Fred's been over his 50 rides for the month, and Fred earns 75%. Fred has that number. So now I'm going to go up and you see a concept called driver refer. And I'm going to call the driver refer, the guy with the long kind of blondie silvery hair and looks like a little bit of facial hair. I'm going to call him Bob. So in this example, I'm going to say that Bob referred Fred to be a Vibe driver. Okay, so Bob basically said, hey, Fred, why don't you be a Vibe driver? Now, the interesting thing about this is you'll see in some of the other rideshare programs that you get compensated for referrals. You get compensated if you refer a rider, if you refer a driver, you get compensated. In our concept with Vibe Rides and Overdrive, you're going to be compensated also. But here's the unique thing. You will be compensated as long as that person you referred continues to drive. So if Fred continues to drive all the time, every time Fred drives, Bob, who referred Fred, is going to get 3%, and that would be the $3. So that $100 mileage and time breakdown, if there was $100, Bob, who referred Fred, would earn 3% or $3 every time Fred drives. So let me say that again. It's 3%. In this example, it's $100, so it's $3, but every time Fred takes a drive, Bob is going to earn 3%. Okay, so again, I was talking about a 12% going to overdrive. So there's another component about that. There's an additional 3% that Bob can earn. If you see the little arrow going up there to the left, it says drive share pool. In that drive share pool, there's another 3% that's put in there. So Bob, as the driver Bob doing the referral, has the opportunity to earn another 3%, or in our example, a total of $6. So again, we take that fare breakdown and you can see how it goes. You've got 75% or $75 going to Fred, $3 or 3% going to Bob, and another 3% or $3 going to the drive share pool. Okay, so that's the driver side. Now let's go over to the rider side. I guess I better come up with some names for the rider side here too. So we're going to say our rider's name here. This is Tim. Tim is our rider. Okay, if Tim is the rider, he's the guy that's going to pay the complete fare, which is going to include the $100 mileage and time piece. So Tim will be paying that fare, and Tim really is a rider. He's a rider. He's not getting much. but he has opportunities to get some more. So let's look at the example of, we also have, well, we had Bob on the one side, who is a driver referrer. There's also the potential on the rider side to actually refer people. So I'm going to say this is Mary here. And Mary was the one that referred Tim to Vibe Rides. So again, if you remember my examples, some other companies would say you can have a one-time shot to basically refer somebody. But again, if Mary refers Tim, Mary's also going to earn 3% of that mileage and time fare. And Tim is going to be her referral for as long as Tim continues to take Vibe Rides. So wherever Tim goes, whether it's in Florida, Texas, Washington, pick a state, California, New York, New Jersey, wherever Tim goes and takes a Vibe Ride, Mary is always going to get 3% of that mileage and time fare that Tim pays. So what makes this interesting is, I go back over to Bob. You know, Bob could have been the one that referred Fred, and Bob could potentially be the one that referred Tim. In that situation, Bob would earn 3% on Fred and 6% on Tim. So I think you get a little bit of an idea of the potential. But Mary may be a person that has no interest in driving. Mary just may be a person that likes to ride and refers other riders and refers her friends. But if Mary refers other people to use Vibe Rides, Mary will continue to earn 3% of that fare as long as Tim's her rider or whoever she has. So very similar to how we did the drive side, there's also the same concept on the ride side. So again, we talked about a 12% that got put into the overdrive pool. So if we look again at the driver side, we added 6%, 3% for Bob, 3% for the referral, for the drive share pool. If we go over on the rider side, you're going to see that Mary, she's got 3%. And then we also have the ride share pool where 3% is put in there. So Mary not only has the opportunity to earn 3% on Tim's ride, she has the opportunity to earn up to another 3% on the ride share pool. So if we add those all together, that's where it comes up to be the 12%. Now, the interesting concept here is if we look at this chart, like I said, Bob could be the referred person on both sides, or Mary could be the referral person on both sides. So depending on that combination of drivers or riders that you refer, there's a possibility and the potential to earn up to another 12% on every ride and drive that happens. So I think you're going to see that that's pretty exciting. And like I said, it's not a one-time deal. This goes for as long as those people use Vibe Rides, as long as they drive, as long as they ride. That's passive income for you. Okay, Mark, on the next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to help you build your driver fleet. So when we look at this, there's some of you out there that are very entrepreneurial, and they're going to say, holy crap, I have a lot of people I know that I can refer to do Vibe Rides. And that basically means that you could basically build your own fleet of drivers or people that you know that'll drive, and you can always make 3% up to 6% off of every fare they make. So we're helping you build that driver fleet. Next slide, please, Mark. All right, so hopefully everybody's ready. We're going to get started. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. So let's hit the engine start button and let's go on to the next slide, Mark. Okay. Oh, let me back up, Mark. Let me back up one slide, and hopefully you've got the possibility calculator. Let's pull the possibility calculator up at this point in time. So we're going to give you a little bit more of an idea here, and we call this a possibility calculator. And I'm just going to put a lot of disclaimers on here for everybody. This calculator, when we put in the parameters, will be an actual calculation. We can't make any guarantee that you're going to come anywhere close to making these income levels, because in order to achieve these numbers, it has to be something that you have to do. You have to be able to build your business. So like I said, these are just the numbers we put in here. The results will come out accurately as what you would be paid, but we make absolutely no representation at all that these are going to be the results that you're going to achieve. So let's start up at the beginning at the number of drivers. So we're going to go back and take Bob as our example, and we're going to say that Bob does a pretty good job, and he recruits 5 people to be drivers for Vibe Rides. So Mark's going to put the number 5 in there for us. And then we're going to say that the average ride, which is the average, the mileage and time piece, is $15. And $15 is what would get paid out from related to the mileage and the time. So if we look for the average rides per day, we've heard numbers, we've heard some pretty interesting numbers when people say they go from 10 all the way up to 40. Well, let's use our example, Mark. Let's put 15 in for the average rides per day. Okay, and then the question is, how many days per week do you drive? Some of you may drive 5, some may drive 7, some make 6, but for example here, let's just leave this at 5. Okay, and then we said that override percentage, if you remember, for the referring driver was 3%. So if we look at this, this would tell us in this scenario that the additional revenue per week that could be earned by Bob would be almost $170. The additional revenue he could earn per month would be $675. So part of our reason for putting together and working with iBoomerang to develop this concept is to give people the opportunity to earn more passive income and earn money when other people are working. So if you just want to see, and like I said, I'm going to give you a little bit more of an extreme example here, just to show you the potential that you have out there and the possibilities that's there. Let's just take Bob's number of drivers up to 10, Mark. Say Bob knows a lot of people. He's going to refer them. They're going to get up to 10. And let's just take the average rides per day up to 20, which I think is a little bit more realistic for our drivers out there. They're driving all the time. And let's say people are driving 6 days per week. Okay, so if you look at that, you're going to say, wow, in that situation, Bob may be making an additional over $500 per week and additional revenue per month over $2,000. That's why we call it an opportunity-driven concept. Okay, so Mark, I appreciate you pulling that up. Let's go back to the get started slides. Okay, now we can click on to the next one. So what does that mean? How do we do it? So this is a completely different program and concept, and I'm going to touch on this briefly today. Okay, I'm going to touch on it briefly today. I know that going through this is going to be a lot of questions. So as I said earlier in my discussion today, on Tuesday next week, I'm going to cover this in more detail than I am today. I'm going to cover it a little bit more detail today, but your question is going to be is, okay, I love that whole concept of overdrive. I love the opportunity to be able to do that. What does it mean? How does it work? So here's the concept. If you want to be an overdrive ambassador, if you want to be an overdriver with Vibe Rides, here's what it takes: a $49.95 business registration fee, okay? And you have to purchase what we call a $200 overdrive pack. Now, for those of you, the drivers that want to go this route from an opportunity standpoint, that $200 overdrive pack will cover your background check and your vehicle inspection. And of course, you're going to get 75% of the distance and time charge. You get 75% after the first 50 rides. So in addition to that overdrive pack, there is a monthly subscription for the technology and for the way that we have to operate this, which will be $100 per month. If you go back and look at and think about the possibility calculator, some of you may be saying, wow, that seems like a high dollar amount. But in reality, if you go back and look at the possibility calculator, you're going to see that by recruiting possibly 2 to 3 people a month with very nominal amounts of driving, that you're going to be able to recoup this cost of $100 a month and put yourself into business, to be a business person and build a fleet. And that's why, again, I keep going back to the concept of opportunity-driven concept. You have the opportunity here to build a fleet. You have the opportunity to build much higher and much more than you would in any other rideshare company. So I hope everybody here, is excited about this concept. There's some other concepts here on this slide. For right now, I think I've given you enough today. to digest, to go back to listen to, but I'm going to come back on Tuesday next week, and I'm going to cover a little bit more detail on this because I know there's a lot of other questions on this, but we're going to do it. So at this point in time, I'm going to pause and I am going to invite an individual onto the call today. And this individual, Mr. Holton Buggs, I have had the opportunity to know for probably over 10 years. Very successful individual, very visionary man, very strategy oriented, very, very successful. And one of the things that I like about Holton is the more successful he's gotten, the better he's gotten as a person and an individual. I love watching him speak. For those of you who've had the opportunity to see him speak in person, always incredibly motivating, always very uplifting, just a great person. I feel honored to be working with him on Vibe Rides. I feel honored that I'm actually got this opportunity to do this, be on here every day with you. But I want to bring Holton on the call, and I'd like to have him actually give you a little bit more of his vision, a little bit more of the background and Vibe Rides, how we got here, and really just have him give you some insights as it relates to the rideshare industry. So Holton, if you're there, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, Scott, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know we have people that may be on here from all different time zones. Great job as always. Thank you so much for the last several days. I've been on every one of these calls, and I'm glued to it. As you and Angela and Frederick have actually rolled out some of the beginning parts of it, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm hearing it for the first time relative to the excitement that I have. So really excited about our this entire program that we have with Vibe Rides and a different style of opportunity that we are bringing to people, not only on a domestic basis, but a global basis. And I know many of you have questions about that. We'll get into that as well. But I'm really, really excited, and I want to wish everybody, before we even get started in our talk today, I want to wish everybody a great, safe environment. I know many of you are right now at home, and many of our lives have actually been shifted, changed in such a short period of time. And this is the first time ever that I've seen on a global scale that everyone, every person that I know of, that their lives have actually changed or been impacted. So we want to wish you and throw our prayers your way and let you know that in all of what's taking place, we're actually thinking about all of you. And so that's a part of what Vibe Rides is all about. So just by way of getting started, I want to kind of share with you what the inspiration was for Vibe Rides and why Vibe Rides and why was it so important for me to even want to launch a rideshare company. I've been very, very in tune with the gig economy, specifically rideshare. About 5 years ago, I was kind of enamored with the concept. And I remember the very first time I had one of my neighbors in California. I was living in California part-time, and one of my neighbors called me up and he told me about this concept, and he's involved in technology and other things. And he called me up and he says, "Hey, have you ever heard of rideshare?" And I'm like, "Never heard of it." And he told me about it. He says, "Man, it's something you got to get involved with, but just from a customer side." And he says, "Man, no longer do I rent cars or whatever." And so I never forget pulling up one of the apps, pulling it down, and there was no rides in my neighborhood. And where I lived was kind of remote, and nobody was servicing that area. And even still to this day, it's hard to get service in that area. But anyway, I became fascinated, and I never forget when I took my first ride. You know, I'm an over promoter, so I called my dad up. I called several people, told my buddies, told Edwin, told several people, "Hey, you got to start using rideshare. It's simple, it's easy, it's fun. You don't have to rent cars anymore from the airport. You don't have to be worried about valet parking, gassing up, refueling, insurance. You just use your app, boom, and a car comes and gets you." And then I start tracking the stories of what was happening in the rideshare industry and the different companies and owners who actually launched them. And I just became a real big fan. Didn't even think about owning a rideshare company. And a few years ago, I actually had a dream. I never forget. And it wasn't even a dream. It was a vision. I woke up and I started thinking, why don't I do rideshare and attach it to what I'm best at from a marketing standpoint, network marketing? So I have this concept, I have this idea, and I wake up the next morning and I said to myself, "This is the stupidest idea you ever thought of." And I never thought about it again. I never did. And then it was obviously a few years later that we developed a concept around a technology that we call Boomerang. And Boomerang is just a technology of customer acquisition and the way that we are able to give back to society. And once developed that technology, we started to understand that, and I started looking at how the world was changing, how the world was shifting. And I thought, what better concept to utilize our technology than with the gig economy? And therefore we started to talk and put together the team in pieces by piece by piece. And the next thing you know, we decided that we were launching a logistics technology that would allow us to participate in the entire gig economy. And I'll say that, and I'll preface this, not just rideshare, but the entire gig economy. And I'll give you some comparisons of what I mean. Our technology that we developed, that's called the Boomerang, it actually allows us to participate in an $8 trillion industry called travel. Well, in travel, there's airline tickets, and there's cruises, and there's hotels, and there's overnight stays, weekly homes, there's excursions. There's so many different facets of travel. And when we did it, we didn't develop it and say, we're going to take this technology and only allow people to benefit from hotels. We said, if they want cruises, we can do it. If they want vacation spots, we can do it. If they want concert tickets or tickets to theme parks, we'll do it. If they want rental cars, we can do it. Every aspect of travel. If they want individual travel, we can do it. If they want group travel, we'll do it. And so what we've done is we looked at this $8 trillion industry and we said, okay, we're going to use our technology to do some good and bring a percentage of the population who utilizes travel and bring them into our ecosystem and provide all of that. What happened is March 11th, we launched the website last year, and then March 11th of this year obviously was 1 year. So we've been 1 year, 14 days in the making. And within that period of time, we have acquired with that technology over 500,000 customers, over 500,000 customers, nearly 600,000 now, with an average of maybe about 4,000 to 7,000 customers per day that are actually coming aboard using our technology. Why do I tell you that? I tell you that because we realized that we figured out one thing right. We know how to utilize technology and we know how to market. And if we have that technology working and we're continuing to perfect it, we know how to utilize that technology within another industry. And the biggest, fastest growing industry that I'm more excited about than anything is the gig economy, specifically talking rideshare now. So for those of you who don't know the story and why, that's the motive and the inspiration behind why we wanted to launch, or why we're so excited about Vibe Rides. And so, Scott, I know I'm on here as some questions that you wanted to ask from an interview style standpoint, or however you want to do it. I'm completely open, and I'll pass it back to you right now. So I'll let you take the direction, and wherever we go from here, we'll end up in a great place.
Thanks, Holton. One of the clarifications that I wanted to make to everybody that came in through chat is it relates to the 12% and the 3%. So people are asked, like, can I refer people? Yes, you can, but you need to be signed up to be in Vibe Overdrive. For the people that'll get paid up to the 12%, you have to be registered under Vibe Overdrive. So that was the $49.95 plus the $200, and then the $99.95 per month. And again, we'll come back and explain more of this next Tuesday. So Holton, my question for you is, you've looked at this space for a long time in rideshare. With what's going on in today's world, what advice would you have for drivers that are out there today?
Well, specifically right now, I paid attention to, and I keep abreast of what's happening, what's going on, and this current situation that's taking place. The number one thing I'd recommend for drivers and riders is to make sure you pay attention to what's going on in your city, in your state, from a legal standpoint and from an advisory standpoint of making sure that you protect yourselves. And it's not only protecting yourself, you have to make sure that you protect others as well, and taking as great of precautions as you can to do that. The second thing that I would advise is there's two sides to look at what's taking place. There's two ways to look at it. Anytime something like this happens, and this hadn't happened in my lifetime before, but I've had my share of ups and I've had my share of downs, big time. I've had probably more downs than I've had ups, and more failures than I've had in business than I've had successes. But you always have to make a decision. And when I say make a decision, you make a decision as to what are you going to look for in this economy right now? Are you going to look for the excuse or the reasons why things won't work or why things are not great? Or will you take and dive through and fish through and find that one idea, that one concept, or that one reason, or those other reasons of finding the opportunity? Because this too shall pass. And I can tell you that those who become most successful at whatever it is, it's because they look for the silver lining. And I'm not talking about fantasy land. I'm talking about a conscious choice that we have, that we're able to make and say, here's my setback, but my setback is a setup for what? Is it a setup for disappointment, or is it a setup for slingshotting yourself into something bigger? And that's what we're doing here with Vibe. Everybody was asking, hey, are you just not going to launch? Are you canceling? And we're like, cancel? There's no cancel in our, the world will still go on. Logistics will still need to take place. Somebody have to get medical supplies to the people who need them. Somebody's going to have to get mail from one place to the next. Somebody's going to have to get a message from one place to the next. Somebody's going to have to get meals from one place to the next. Somebody's going to have to transport even people from one place to the next. And so I'll talk a little later of why I think we see a great opportunity, and not that we have wished that this would happen at all, but we see a great opportunity. And for us, we're going to make sure that we maximize this timing.
Great. So I think, Holton, another thing that might be interesting for the people to hear is you looked at this industry, you've seen the size of the industry, and maybe be helpful for the people to give an idea of what the size of this industry is today, and what you see or what you've read or researched as to where it's going in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. When I looked at the gig economy and how technology is allowing for it, you have to remember that the only reason for all of these things taking place now is not because the ideas didn't exist, is because of the technology that now exists. Number one, mobile phones. Everybody's got all of these great mobile phones here. I'm sitting here with 2 of them, and high-speed internet from a mobile capacity is allowing a lot more things to take place from a technology side that we couldn't do before. And so right now we're looking at an industry that's somewhere near approaching $30 billion annually in revenue. Just rideshare, that's not including other components of the gig economy. When I look at the real scale of it, it's really a $1 trillion industry that they're projecting, because remember, we are a logistics solutions company. That's what we are, a logistics solutions company. And the first way that we enter that is through passengers, or what they consider to be rideshare, picking a passenger up, somebody who requests or wants a ride and wants to get to the next destination. And so I'm grateful for us to have the positioning of being so early, and not only so early, a revolutionary concept that I know we'll talk about in terms of how we're compensating people within this gig economy. We're the first that I'm seeing to do it the way that we're doing it, and with a proven model of 500,000 customers that we've gathered. And what we realize is that in our travel component, people travel once, maybe twice a year. And the gig economy, people utilize that technology sometimes on a daily basis. And so we perfected something one way, and we're going to now drive an entire concept. And the number of people who will be better off, who will now be able to springboard their lifestyles, it's just another dimension. It's just another dimension. And I'm grateful for those who've gone before us, who started the gig economy, to allow us to just kind of piggyback on what they've done, but take it to the next level. So what we're doing is crawling on the backs of them and just going to a whole nother dimension of how we're going to treat our drivers, our customers, and the rewards that's going to be available for them. So it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And Alton, I agree with you. The whole concept from a logistics standpoint, it's basically getting something from point A to point B. It could be people, it could be a package, it could be medicine, it could be food, it could be anything, but it's moving anything from point A to point B. So what advice would you give to somebody? This is for our drivers out there. The whole overdrive concept is, wow, it's an amazing new concept. It may be a little bit overwhelming. There's some costs involved with big potentials. If we've got some of the drivers out there that are, uncertain or maybe a little bit apprehensive, what advice would you give to them as it relates to the overdrive concept?
Well, first of all, I want you to know that I relate to you. I understand apprehension. I understand being hesitant. Anytime something new comes around, it's always presented with fear or resistant to do something that I'm not familiar with. I remember when the internet came around, and I remember my parents saying, "I'll never put my credit card on the internet." Why? Fear. I'll never do online shopping. And today that's kind of all that's done. I remember before, people saying, "I'll never buy bottled water because tap water is free." What's the difference? And today, if you offer somebody tap water, if they come to your home, they probably assume you don't like them. And so it was presented with fear. No different than the concept of bed and breakfasts, the concept of Airbnb, when people said, "Hey, I'll open my home and let a stranger come and stay in my home." The concept of rideshare itself, of, you mean to tell me I'm going to go get in a car, somebody else's car that's not a marked car, and allow them to drive me around and they have no idea who I am? It was the most foreign concept. But what has to happen is some people started it. And those who started were the pioneers. And then once people saw it was okay, and momentum hit, and now it's normal. It's not even I never forget getting my dad to do his first drive or his first ride. And it was so foreign to him. And I actually called up the ride for him and let the car come. And it was so fascinating. But today, I think we get over those fear barriers very, very fast. Well, let's explain what those differences are And I understand the intrepidation and the fear that one may have, or the hesitancy. Number one, we recognize that our opportunity, we designed it for everyone, but everyone won't design their future within our opportunity, and we understand that, and that's okay. We want the other rideshare companies to do extremely well, because the better they do, the more they make it acceptable for people to choose this rideshare or this gig economy. So we're not out there to eliminate competition or to say other companies don't do it right or they're bad. We understand that, you know, I had some person the other day told me that there's no more room for another Uber. And I say, you're absolutely right, but there's a lot of room for Vibe Rides. And so we're taking that particular channel. And the other component I'd say is this: what the other rideshare companies have done, they've done a phenomenal job at providing a self-employment opportunity, which means they take on the risk for you. You basically are able to self-employ, which means you can take your mobile phone, and when you want to go to work, you click your button and you go to work. All the risk is completely removed. If you don't go to work, you lose nothing. If you go to work, you lose nothing. You gain by the number of drives and how much you hustle. It's what it is. It's a hustle. They call it the side hustle for a reason. Well, one of the things that I'm looking at right now is, even in a situation like this, is the majority of rideshare or gig economy participants are saying, I'm hurting because I personally cannot leave my house and go ride, or the rides are not as abundant as they were for this short period of time. That's the number one reason that I developed this type of concept, is because I never wanted me personally to depend on just what I can do. So here's what we've done. I'll give you an example. Rideshare company, Brand X rideshare company provides that opportunity, and they'll pay for your background check. They'll pay for your car inspection. So to you, it's like, wow, they pay for it. Well, if they pay for it, there's nothing in this world that's free. When they pay for it, they also taking on the risk whether or not you're going to go out and drive or not. And how do they offset that risk? That extra percentage of income, that 12%, 12% that we offer, they keep that 12%, which is a lot, and they pay it to either corporate executives or distributions to shareholders. And to you, you may look at it and say, well, that's okay, I didn't buy any stock. Well, the only opportunity that you have is for you to go out and drive. That means that you only earn income when you drive, right? And to break it down even further, I want to give you guys a concept. There's 4 ways to actually earn money. 4, and I'm going to share with you why we did what we did. 4 ways. The first way, I call it YOE. It stands for your own efforts. Okay, your own efforts. 95% of the people earn money by their own efforts, either through self-employment, maybe a hairdresser, maybe a truck driver, maybe a landscaper, maybe whatever it is. It's your business, but you can be employed, and so you're using your efforts, and that's where money comes in. The number 2 way, or second way, is through what we call OPE, other people's efforts. Okay, other people's efforts allows you to develop what we call leverage. Leverage just means that I'm going to work smarter. For example, if I was to want to dig a pool and you know, out here, I could either go out with my shovel, and it'll take me so long, and I'll have my hands all blistered. At the end of however long, I'll have my pool. Or I could call 10 friends and say, hey guys, listen, I need some help. I've got 10 shovels. Would you help me dig this pool? And I'll dig that pool in 1/10 the time. I'll be able to enjoy my pool. I'll have less blisters on my hand. It's leverage, okay? And the other way to earn money is what we call OPM, other people's money. You can utilize somebody else's money and they take on the risk. The example is other rideshare companies. They pay for everything for you, or the minimal cost. When I say everything, they don't pay for your gas, but they pay for the startup costs. You're utilizing their money. not a problem. It's a great thing to do, because if you choose not to work, guess what? You didn't lose anything. And the other one is what we call OPI. And here's where the majority of the people create substantial amounts of lifestyle. OPI stands for other people's ideas. So what you're able to utilize is an idea, a collective idea of other people who've done it, who've created massive success. And we want it by Rides, whereas you can have all 4 methods of income that produce. So with other companies who take on the biggest risk, they also take the majority of the profits. And one of the biggest things that I see right now, the biggest complaint is, number one, how driver treatment and driver compensation. Well, what we did is we said, we're going to make an opportunity-driven model where all 4 quadrants of what I just mentioned are encompassed, whereas you can use OPI, you can use OPM. We developed the technology. This technology is not cheap and it's not free. There's a lot that goes into it. OPE, other people's efforts, which now gives you the ability to have leverage. I mean, Scott showed you a model, a very conservative model of having 10 drivers or 20 drivers who drive on a part-time basis. Now, that doesn't take away from the opportunity that you have to go out and drive, or even to get your own customers. And then you can use your own efforts. That means that you can earn up to that 75%. And so when you think about it, I see some people in the chat the last few days, well, my company that I use, they don't charge me for this. Well, one of the things that they don't do as well is they don't allow you to get your own customer base. Okay. Here, I want you to imagine that you're a driver, and in your part-time, you do something else, or full-time, you do something else, and you build yourself your own customer base. Do you know that typically in the transportation business, if you're a limo driver and your customer drives with another limo company, you don't get paid. Here with Vibe Rides, we allow you to get a customer. That customer is yours for life. If that customer moves from where you are, let's say in Houston, where I live, and they move to London, where we'll be going to London, we'll be opening up London, and they choose Vibe Rides, you still get paid on that customer. If that customer is your customer 10 years from now, and you're active as an overdriver, and they use Vibe Rides, you still get paid on that customer. And so my question for you is, the way you look at it is saying, is investing less than $100 in my own business, and I'm talking about the other costs, not the overdrive package, but in my car inspection, in my background check, which may be 50, 60, 70 bucks, less than 100, is investing $100. Would I rather save the 100 and give away all the opportunity for the remainder of my rideshare future? Or would I rather put up my own $100, invest in me, believe in me, and have the ability to have unlimited amounts of income and not have to even worry about whether I'm driving to earn income? That's what we wanted to give back to the community, to this rideshare, and bring people who are hustlers, who are working hard to make ends meet for their families, but give them a bigger opportunity instead of, teasing them with stock options, whereas we don't have the money to invest to get the dividends that these public traded companies have. But you do have your hustle, and let your hustle allow you to build a real business and be self-employed through yourself, and also use leverage. So hopefully that shares a light in terms of what we're doing and why we did it. And we're going to continue promoting it this way.
That's a great comment, Holden. And, investing in yourself. If you can't believe in yourself, nobody else can. So I think, again, you said is very nominal dollar amount to invest in yourself. I know, Holden, you've got another call coming up here, so I'm going to ask you one more easy question.
Sure.
But we're done. You got a great looking shirt on there today, and I like your Vibe Rides cap too. So if I'm watching on this call, you got the Vibe coffee mug too?
Hey, man.
Holy crap!
Of course.
Look at that. So look at how can I get those? People are going to want to know. We know that iBoomerang does marketing for the company. How can somebody on this call today get some of the gear that you have?
Okay. Sometimes, guys, you hear the name iBoomerang. For those of you who may not even know what iBoomerang is, and I want to address that as well, and I'll answer your question as to how you get some of our gear. iBoomerang basically is a marketing company. Okay, I'll give you an example. I am aware of like Airbnb and their marketing agency. I've got a relationship with the ad agency that they use to get the word out about Airbnb. Okay. In that marketing agency with Airbnb, they get the word out. They spend a lot of money on the front end, hoping that customers come in. What we decided to do is to use a marketing agency as well. Well, Vibe Ride said, well, let's use iBoomerang. Why? Because they're very good at marketing. They have a network of distributors all over the world, and this company wants to go global. And so iBoomerang happens to be the marketing company who uses network marketing to get the word out about Vibe Rides. Most rideshare companies that I'm aware of have invested somewhere between $800 upwards of $900 per driver, okay, per driver in terms of the recruitment process. And in terms of the recruitment process of recruiting these particular drivers, they pay it on the front end. With iBoomerang, we don't pay that on the front end. We utilize the network who go out, iBoomerang or Vibe drivers, and you guys go out and get it. And so that's why we have the money to pay you on the back end of that as well. So when you hear iBoomerang, that is the marketing company. That's where all the training comes from typically. So in that, you can go to what we call boomgear.com, BUUMGEAR, boomgear.com. And with boomgear.com, you'll be able to find Vibe gear. You'll see a lot of iBoomerang gear as well. Coffee mugs. You'll be able to, we got some pretty cool stuff that's coming as well. They just brought me some shirts yesterday. I was excited, but I knew if I wore them today, Scott, some people would be jealous because they
I would definitely be jealous.
So, but you can go to boomgear.com and get them.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Holden. Appreciate you coming on the call and sharing with us today. Like I said, I know you've got to drop off and get on another call, but thanks so much for being on there. Hopefully we'll get you back on, or I'm sure we will see you on our Go Live Day on April 1st.
Absolutely.
Riding around Houston somewhere.
Thank you guys, and everybody out there, just be safe, be encouraged. And those of you who are on here as either prospects, guests, or just drivers, every morning we do an inspirational call. And when I say inspiration, we just believe in taking lemons and making lemonade out of it. And so it's not about iBoomerang, it's not about Vibe, it's about life, it's about you, it's about me, it's about what's happening. And we offer words of encouragement, a lot of great stories. It's 8:00 a.m. Central Standard Time all the time. And if you want, you can go to iBoomHub.com and you'll be able to see a list of all of the calls that we do. But the 8:00 morning call, I've got so many people who are not a part of Vibe or iBoomerang plugging into it for that daily inspiration. So thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate everything that you guys have been doing. You've been doing awesome calls, and I'll be on the ones tomorrow and from now on as well.
Great. Thanks, Holden. Appreciate you being on today.
Absolutely.
So, Mark, let's wrap up here. Let's go back to the slides if we can. Okay, so let's just click to the next slide.
That is the next slide.
Hang on a second, because I may have blocked my screen here. Thank you, Mark. Our next topic, safety. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be going and talking about driver safety on Thursday. We're going to be talking about rider safety on Friday. On Monday, we're going to go through what we call the drive portion of the app, where you're going to actually see what happens when you get pinged for the ride all the way through to the very end. Angela will be walking you through all the screens that you're going to see. And then on Tuesday, we're going to go into a little bit more detail as it pertains to overdrive, answer some other questions. And that call is going to be specifically driven towards overdrive on Tuesday. And then, like I said, on Wednesday, April 1st, we're going to be going live to actually some live rides and drives. So on the next slide, Mark, I think we just have question and answers. We had to hold on for question and answers today. Angela is taking your questions and answers and all your chats from today, and we're going to cover those tomorrow and on Friday. So the next slide, Again, if you got additional questions, please go viberides.com and click support, or viberidesupport.com. A lot of good information out there. So that wraps it up for us today. Look, thank you for being on the call. Appreciate all of you, and drive smart, be safe. Thank you.